Shana Tova, everyone. There is a story about a man who always wanted to be a great artist. He spent years honing his skills, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't seem to create anything truly remarkable. One day, he decided to visit a renowned painter and seek his advice. He showed the artist his work and asked, "What am I doing wrong? Why can't I reach my full potential as an artist?" The painter looked at the man's paintings and said, "Your technique is excellent, but there's one thing missing. You need to paint with your heart, not with your hands." The man was puzzled and asked, "But how do I paint with my heart?" The painter replied, "Imagine yourself as the canvas and let your emotions guide your brush. Only then will you truly reach your potential as an artist." Tonight, as we observe Rosh Hashanah, we stand on the threshold of a new year, wondering what lies ahead and what 5784 holds for each of us. We're given the opportunity for introspection, growth, and renewal to ask ourselves the question, am I the best self I can possibly be? We seem to have lost sight of our potential to be our best selves. When we're acting at our very best, we feel empathy. We treat others with the respect that they deserve. We allow ourselves to share perspectives outside the echo chamber and make decisions for ourselves and others. In fact, each of these actions reflect the beauty within Jewish values, and it saddens me that society as a whole has been given permission to use the opposite of their behavioral foundation. The good news, it's most certainly not too late, and we have a prayer just for that. We say the Aleinu prayer at the end of every service, a prayer that guides us to envision and embrace a world where we practice the Jewish values we hold to be true. The first line states, Aleinu lishabeach la'adon hakol. It is our duty to offer praise to the master of all. Latet gedula liyotzer bereshit. To ascribe greatness to the author of creation. With these words, we are letting God know that we are aware of the world around us by offering gratitude for it. Now, within the second paragraph, there is a line that states that repairing the world, sustaining and enhancing God's creation, doing our part is at the essence, the core of the prayer. It's not just a way to say, thank you, God, for creating the world, but we are obliged to recognize and find a way to make our praise come to life. It's our call to action, where we strive to recognize that potential and start living up to it. It can happen, but only if we're willing to take the necessary steps. And those steps are the following. Live a life filled with kindness, proceed with humility, and act with compassion. Aleinu lishabeach. My friends, it's time to live our praise. Kindness, chesed, is a value that we should be very familiar with here at Temple. Because just a few years ago, we dedicated an entire year to it with our kindness campaign. And for good reason. Recognizing and living up to our potential requires kindness as the first step. As the late Rabbi Harold Kushner taught, when you are kind to others, it not only changes you, it changes the world. Kindness is a transformative force that has the power to create a lasting impact, both for the recipient and for the giver. When we embrace kindness, we tap into our innate potential to bring comfort and joy and healing to others. Remember that smile you offered to someone, or when you lended a helping hand? What about the time where you were actively listening to a friend going through a difficult time? You made a difference by lifting up their spirits and reminding others that they are seen and valued. This is living up to our potential. So easy, so accessible, and yet often not tapped into. But kindness isn't just about the impact it has on others, it's also deeply transformative to ourselves. By being kind, we cultivate a sense of empathy, gratitude, and interconnectedness, which allows us to transcend our own self-interests and connect with a shared humanity that binds us all. We then tap into our own potential for generosity and love. Psychologist Dr. Carl Rogers taught that when individuals are met with kindness and acceptance, they are more likely to feel safe, understood, and valued. Isn't that what each of us strive for in our lives? Kindness is the gift that continuously gives to others and deep within. It really is the first step we must take to living up to our potential to be our best selves. Aleinu lishabeach. It's time to live our praise with kindness. Living life with humility, anava, is the second step to recognizing our potential. Don't confuse the emotion of feeling humiliated with being humble, though they come from the same Latin root meaning low. True humility is to keep one grounded and free from arrogance and haughtiness. Some believe that humility means that they are the bottom of the barrel, when in actuality, they are nowhere near such depths. Humility encourages us to recognize that we are fallible, that we have room for improvement, and that our own experiences and beliefs are not the sole truth. Cultivating humility allows us to engage in meaningful dialogue, respecting a diversity of thoughts and experiences that exist. It encourages active listening without judgment and to approach conversations with curiosity and a genuine desire to learn from others. How often are we caught up in a moment where we or someone we know loses their potential for humility? It's almost impossible to discuss anything anymore. No one listens to one another, and minds remain closed throughout the conversation. Imagine if we stopped for a second, humbled ourselves enough to try to listen to what others have to say. Will we agree? Likely not. But will we have a sense of understanding? Still perhaps not. But will we open ourselves to new opportunities and to learn something new? Yes, because we did the work. There is a Hasidic story when Reb Simcha Bunim carried a piece of paper in each of his pockets. One said, "I am but dust and ashes," and the other saying, "The world was created just for me." There's no need to diminish ourselves or our self-worth, but rather shifting focus from self-centeredness to a genuine concern for others. By doing so, we are taking another step to living up to our potential to be our best selves. Aleinu lishabeach. It's time to live our praise with humility. Finally, acting with compassion, rachamim, or rachmanas, as some of you might say. It's the third way to recognize and live up to our potential. How many of us struggle when it comes to reception and response in our relationships? Be it with our partners, our children, our grandchildren, co-workers, or even the customer service representative on the phone. I'm a firm believer that when we snap at someone, and are perhaps more aggressive than we should, we're projecting an emotion that we're feeling internally onto the other. Now, I know nobody here has done that, so. When that happens, we're feeling frustrated, anxious, angry, and disappointed. And if we're on the receiving end, we become defensive, frustrated, anxious, angry, disappointed. And when this cycle occurs, we are not living up to what we feel is our highest potential. Whichever emotion it might be, whether you are the projector or the projectee, acting with compassion guides us to practice the art of simsum, stepping back and taking a deep breath, grounding ourselves in the moment when we overwhelm someone with how we are feeling. Perhaps that means meditating, walking away, or just not responding to that email right away. It's not easy. So how do we get there? Throughout the day, we're just trying to focus on ourselves to get through that day, to stay above water, just to get what we need. In his book, Everyday Holiness, Rabbi Alan Marinas teaches that the sole trait of compassion is defined as the inner experience of touching one another so closely that you no longer perceive the other as separate from you. Imagine that. Our altruistic side shines. We are feeling the joy and the sorrow of others. We've had a bad day at work or school. We feel micromanaged by our boss, stressed and anxious about finishing that project or fulfilling that order or completing that task. We've spent all day or even days with pent-up frustration. We're feeling all the feels. When we return home, who's the first person we greet when we finally let loose? That's right, those who we love. We snap at the smallest things. We chew out our partners and our children. We raise our voice and actually cause a brand new problem. Why? Because we are projecting our emotions upon them. Having compassion is challenging to do in the moment, but this attribute will prevent your hurt from causing pain to others. Try the simsum idea, the taking a step back. It works. But what if we're on the receiving end of the projection? How do we respond? As challenging as it sounds, rather than immediately activating defense mode, simply ask, what's going on? Are you okay? You seem anxious. How could I help? As Rabbi Marinas suggests, get in the moment with them. Feel their emotions. That, my friends, is compassion. Not attacking them for their reaction, but meeting them where they're at in that moment. How much less reactive and more understanding would our individual and communal relationships be if we activated our compassionate response instead of our defensive response? For in most cases, we're just looking for that support, that empathy, that I hear you. As we stop the cycle of negativity and projection, we can begin to live our potential that we deserve. Aleinu lishabeach. It's time to live our praise with compassion. You see, kindness, humility, and acting with compassion are ways to achieve the potential to be our best selves. And our tradition's most influential and famous rabbis, Hillel and Shammai, exemplify the importance of recognizing and living up to that potential. Hillel was known for his patience, wisdom, and ability to find common ground. Shammai, on the other hand, was more strict and rigid in his interpretations of Jewish law. Both had their own unique perspectives, but they also respected each other and engaged in healthy debates. Shammai argued that it would have been better for humans to have not been created, as he believed that the potential for sin and wrongdoing outweighed the potential for good. He believed that the world would have been better without the existence of humanity. Can you believe that? An interesting perspective, to be sure. Hillel offered a contrary opinion. He contended that it's better that humans were to be created, as he believed in the inherent value and potential for goodness within each individual. He recognized that while humans have the capacity for wrongdoing, they also possess the ability to do great acts of kindness, righteousness, and to make positive contributions to our society. Hillel's argument proved more favorable, as it most often does. But it wasn't just that particular discussion that made Hillel and Shammai most telling. Although they disagreed and bickered and saw the world through a completely different lens, when it came down to it, the houses of Hillel and Shammai were there for one another. They listened. They shared in times of happiness and sorrow. They celebrated Shabbat together. They acted with kindness and humility and compassion. And they're revered throughout our tradition. And if they can do it, so can we. As we begin this new year, let us follow in the footsteps of those who came before us. Let's look deeply at our place within our relationships, not letting our projections stand in the way of creating, fostering, and sustaining a world that we hope for. May we act with kindness, humility, and compassion, as those are the steps for not only recognizing our potential, but living it. Like the painter, let these attributes guide our brushes to transform a blank canvas into a timeless masterpiece. We can do this, and we'll be better off for it in the present and in the future. On Rosh Hashanah, we are to be inscribed in the book of life. It's up to us to call ourselves to task, to sing what's good and true. For what's the point of being here if we are not moved to change our ways? Let us be sealed in that book of life. Aleinu lishabeach. It's time to live our praise. Amen.